Hello and welcome, everyone. I'm Razvi. I'm the Director of Education here at Psychedelic Somatic Institute. And the video that I'm sharing with you today is a recording of my own personal psychedelic therapy session. In it, I'm working with prescription ketamine, and it's being given to me by a fellow PSI faculty member. When the video picks up, I've already taken the ketamine and it's mostly taken effect. Now, I do have a few words to say that will hopefully give you some context and give you a better sense of what's going on in the session. But if you want to skip that and go directly to the session, there'll be a time code in the show notes or someplace up here. So there are really two reasons why I'm choosing to release this video. The first is that I want to normalize trauma. And I think most people walking around today have experienced some level of highly stressful or overwhelming events in their life. Even though they may not qualify for a clinical PTSD diagnosis, I think there's still repercussions and symptoms that people are living with. The research, for example, tells us that most people don't have secure attachment. And I think anything other than secure attachment is a form of developmental trauma. Something else that we see pretty regularly in our trainings is that the people that apply to train at PSI are usually, they're mental health professionals, they're highly functional people, they either have a master's degree or a doctoral degree, or they have a significant background in the healing arts. And in either case, these are people that have been successful in their practice, functional. They've been doing this work for 10, 15, 20, even 25 years. And what we find is that these folks are very well processed at a talk therapy level. But when you go in with the psychedelic and with the body process, what you find is that there's a lot of compartmentalization going on. There's a lot of workarounds that people have come up with over the years, whether it's a conscious workaround or a not so conscious workaround, to deal with the things that have happened to them, and that allows them to be functional. Of course, there's a price to pay for this. And what happens in the psychedelic process is that all the coping mechanisms, all the strategies that people have come up with kind of get wrecked, right? So to be clear, psychedelic therapy is not about symptom management, right? It's about making contact with what is actually down there, with the programming, with the memories, engaging it, processing it, and getting to the other side. Okay, so that's the first thing. I think we're all in the same human boat, whether you're a psychedelic therapy consumer or a study participant, or you're a clinician and you have your own trauma. I think this is a very normal human thing to have in our culture. Okay, the second reason why I wanted to release this is that I wanted to convey, at least for me, what a potential endpoint of psychedelic therapy can look like. So something that clients as well as students will frequently ask is, how long will this take? How long will the destabilization take? How long will the process take? Is it, something that these are people that have been in therapy for many years. And so I think they're asking this question because they're wondering, will they have to be doing this work for the rest of their life, or is there truly an endpoint? My sense is that trauma is finite. The amount of reactivity, the amount of distortions, the amount of reenactments that anybody has in their system, the energy for all of that is finite. So the endpoint of psychedelic psychotherapy can be different and look different for different people. But at least in my case, I think this is what it looks like: the reestablishment of secure attachment, the reconnecting and integration of fragmented aspects of self that got cleaved off very early in life for me. Okay. Now the final piece that I want to talk about is give you a little bit of background in terms of what has led up to this particular session that you're about to see. So I won't go too far back, but I trained as a trauma specialist back in 2003. And I think I had an interest in that because, well, I had a ton of trauma of my own. I had a lot of early childhood, developmental, family of origin, complex PTSD. I had what could probably be best described as a disorganized attachment style. I was very avoidant of relationships and intimacy because they were just too triggering for me. And I got introduced to the idea of working with psychedelics in mental health when I joined the MDMA research trials for treatment-resistant PTSD in 2014. I also was able to spend a significant amount of time living in Amsterdam doing clinical work there with psilocybin. So you can imagine between those two, I had access to a lot of high-end psychedelic therapy. Basically, between the period of 2014 and 2018, I underwent about 28 full-day psychedelic therapy sessions. And all of these were, therapeutically held. They were well held. They were very useful sessions. I got a lot out of them. And none of them were recreational in nature. And, what I found was, by session 23, 24, that the benefits were really starting to dry up, meaning that, there was a kind of a law of diminishing returns here, that I wasn't getting that much more out of it. So by the time I hit session 28, I thought, okay, I'm done, right? Now, fast forward to 2020, I was giving myself a number of cannabis-assisted therapy sessions. They were self-guided. And again, very powerful sessions. I had a lot of nervous system processing that came out of it. But I also found something really unique was happening in these cannabis therapy sessions that I'd never experienced before with any other medicine. All right. So basically, I would come to this point where it felt like I was just dropping out of existence. Like my consciousness would go away. It was almost like I was passing out. And then, 5 seconds later, I would wake back up, kind of in a startle and take a deep breath. And this would happen cyclically. So basically pass out, drop out of existence, wake back up into the world. And it was pretty unpleasant, right? So, so I didn't know what it was. It was, like I said, I'd never experienced this before, any of my therapy work or with other medicines. So I just thought, well, okay, that's a strange artifact of how cannabis works. I thought that up until I had my very first cannabis PSIP session that was run by another person, right? So prior to this, I was running all of those cannabis sessions myself. And, and then the very first time I had relationship as part of the session, this interactive connection with somebody, I did not dissociate. I did not fall into that little hole and then come back out of it. And in fact, what it really revealed itself to be was dissociation. And here's what it looked like. So when I was in the cannabis session, again, the one that was run by another person, I found myself in a very quiet, safe, calm world, right? Kind of empty of any kind of movement. It was just a very quiet space. And what I could see around me was this glass wall, and it was a very thick glass wall. So it was maybe like 2 feet thick. And on the other side of the wall, I could see colors, I could see shapes, I could see movement, I could see things going on the other side of the wall, but I couldn't make it out, right? And then all of a sudden, like that, the glass wall would disappear, and then I was in the middle of what felt like a storm, right? It was intense, it was emotional, it was frightening, it was all sorts of it was chaotic. And I even at times found myself screaming in that space. And then all of a sudden the glass wall would show back up again, right? So I think I'm pretty convinced what the cannabis was showing me at that point was my own dissociation, my own very early infant level of abuse. What I saw in there was a lot of neglect and also a lot of, physical hitting and aggression and pinching and just like things like that. Here's the takeaway from this story. Those 28-day-long sessions that I did, that was a lot of psychedelic therapy by any standard. And I'm pretty convinced that I kept doing them because I never made it through my thick protective layer of dissociation with those other medicines, my core subterranean abuse experiences were still intact. These were pretty much untouched even after those sessions. This is to say that dissociation is a real thing. It can lead to treatment resistance in therapy, as well as treatment resistance in psychedelic therapy. And that, once I did get through my dissociation and was able to access that level of abuse with the cannabis, it only took 9 sessions to resolve that, that pretty profound level of trauma that I had. And so the session that you're about to see is the last of those. And of course, from everything that I'm describing, you may be sitting there thinking, well, hell, I don't want that kind of access to something. So even though it was quite difficult, it was incredibly useful to have those events, those memories be pulled out of the dissociation, right? So I was still being affected by it. I was still feeling the symptoms of it, the repercussions on my adult relationships I could feel, but sort of, I didn't have any direct access to those memories up until this experience with cannabis. So this is, I think, one of the gifts of the cannabis work. It really gives us access to things that are being hidden by dissociation, and it really seems to activate that nervous system response. My sense of it is that it's a one-trick pony, meaning that it's not a wide spectrum psychedelic the way that the classic tryptamines are, or even the way ketamine is. But the trick that it does is really extraordinary. It's really necessary, I think. And then once a lot has been excavated out of dissociation, then I think the other psychedelics can come into play because they do offer other gifts that cannabis does not, right? Ketamine, for example, is softer and it can still work with the same material. But again, I think very much like psilocybin, ketamine is not all that useful when there's a lot of dissociation going on in the system. And in fact, one of the things that we had as part of our protocol in Amsterdam is to give everybody that came in through our doors 3 cannabis-assisted PSIP sessions prior to having them start working with psilocybin. Okay. So the very last thing I'll mention to give you a little bit of context of what you see in this session is that the therapist in this case, the PSI instructor, is being warm, available, empathic. She has a sort of a micro attunement to what's going on in my system. So in a lot of ways, she is serving as a corrective experience for this part of my childhood where there was a lot of abuse and neglect at the same time. So the therapist is sort of presenting my system with different types of relational solutions to give me the sense that, there are other options in the world. Now, the thing that you don't see her doing is something that we would frequently do with most clients, which is a process called an intervention called selective inhibition, right? So basically what we're looking to do is begin to inhibit the short-term management strategies that people have to calm their systems down, right? So in other words, inhibit the deep breathing, inhibit the going to the beach in your head when something difficult comes up, basically inhibiting the distractions and the avoidance and the defense mechanisms that we have to not feel or to not see some of the things that have happened to us. Because the whole point with this, folks, is that the more you can see and feel these events in your life, the more that your nervous system can process them, right? It's really the things that are hidden away, invisible to us, that we can't do a whole lot with. So selective inhibition would be one of the interventions that we do in PSIP that you don't see in this video, simply because my system's already doing it. I have enough trust for the process. I have enough of a sense that, even though I don't know exactly what the end result of this session is going to be, I really do trust that, when I sort of feel everything that my that is being brought to me by my body, it's going to lead to a good place. Okay, so thank you for staying with me through that introduction. I hope that helps give context to what you're about to see here. And with no further ado, here's the session.
Yeah. Oh, there it is. There's the signal.
Mm-hmm.
I can feel it now.
Mm-hmm. What's it feel like?
It's gently taking over.
Uh-huh.
I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know where I am.
Okay. Wherever you are, I'm going to stay with you as closely as I can.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so notice my voice that is shifting into a higher register. And I'd say even my cognitive process, right? So I think you can track when I'm in my kid mind versus my adult mind by my voice, by these different variables here, right? So in the other sessions that I've done leading up to this one, almost all of my time is spent in kid mind versus the balance between kid and adult mind that you're going to see in this particular session. And also, if it's not clear, the signal that I'm referring to here is that guidance, that intelligence that we get connected to in primary consciousness, right? So even when we're doing non-medicine assisted work, we're still looking for that same signal. It's an emotional, embodied, felt sense signal that's far more clear and accessible when secondary consciousness is not suppressing it, right? So it's far more clear and accessible in the psychedelic state.
You are being taken by the signal.
Okay.
But maybe it's changing. Feet curling towards each other. Yeah, right here. Mm-hmm. Yeah, nurturing. Mm-hmm. Yeah, hand up. Yeah, doing great. Mm-hmm. Breath tight. Yeah.
Okay.
You're okay.
Okay.
Uh-huh. Your hand up in front of you. Let's hear, Saj.
It's like,
Does it hurt?
it's like being an infant.
Uh-huh.
It's completely being an infant.
Yeah. Yeah, feel the infantness. A little infantness. Your hand up. Your feet all curled. Yeah.
Okay.
Mouth open a little. Shoulders up. Hand coming down. Yeah. Thumb by your mouth. Yeah.
Okay, so I know this may be emotional for many of you who are watching this right now, but I would like to offer a little bit of theory to, help give some context to what you're seeing here for those of you who are not familiar with PSIP. So the movements that you're seeing here that are taking place are not voluntary movements. Like, if you open and close your hand right now, that movement is coming from your voluntary nervous system, right? So you're doing it. What you're seeing in this video is the involuntary movement that's coming from the autonomic nervous system. These are movement patterns that are encoded into memory as part of a stressful or traumatic event. And I know that, while you're watching this, it's going to be hard to relate to the movement as either not conscious or purposeful, but see if this helps, right? So imagine that you're walking down the street, you're talking on your cell phone, and you trip. In that moment, there's a certain amount of danger, right? You're about to wipe out on the sidewalk. And as soon as that happens, your autonomic nervous system kicks into action. Your legs move quickly to try and rebalance you and catch you. You get a quick burst of adrenaline. Your hands and arms might come out to break your fall. Your neck and head may pull back to prevent injury to your brain. Your breathing changes, your core muscles tighten, you basically get this beautifully orchestrated, intelligent response to the threat of falling, right? And your conscious mind didn't put this together. You did not orchestrate that response. If you did, you would have fallen. We would fall every single time because our conscious, rational, deliberative mind is part of the slow brain. The reaction that I'm just described to you of tripping, that was orchestrated by your fast brain, and you're having an involuntary physical response to the threat of falling. So your more primitive, non-conscious biology takes over even in relatively mild threat, like tripping. Now imagine how much stronger and deeper and more profound this response would be from your body, from your autonomic nervous system, if the threat was far more significant. So I want you to keep that in mind when you see the movement patterns playing out in this particular session. So I'm not doing it. My biology is intelligently responding to the threat environment that I was in back then, which is being evoked, which is, sort of filling up the room in the present moment. The psychedelic causes non-conscious childhood memories to emerge into the room, and our job is to just allow this, all right, to allow this reenactment of stressful and traumatic memory, but in this case with solutions that we're putting into place. So relational solutions, attachment, safety, things like that.
Right hand going back, shaking. Yeah. Shaking finger down. And shaking. Right. Right here. Whatever. Fingers moving. Stretching, shaking. Breath tight. And, and coming. Yeah.
This is completely an infant hand.
Feel the infant hand. Yeah. Little infant hand. Feel how small it is. It's coming towards me a little bit. I'm right here. My hand will be here. See what the little infant hand feels.
Okay, so you'll notice that touch is anything but neutral in my childhood reality. Like everything else in the therapist-client relationship, touch can be projected onto by the client system. And for me, touch was either dangerous and threatening, which it almost universally was in my earlier sessions, or it can be the solution to an incredible need, which means it's charged with desperation, right? So either way, it's not a relaxed, easy, neutral thing for me in these sessions. And then I would say that, for me, this session is about finding reconciliation between me and my parent, right? Touch is finally showing up in my infant world as what it should have always been. What you're seeing here would not have been possible until the harsh ways that I did receive touch was processed. So essentially we're clearing out all the charge and intensity that was there around contact, and then we're sort of engaging in corrective, relational, contactful experiences at this point.
Yeah, right here. Fist feeling. Yeah. Back. Hands coming up, arching. Yeah, both hands. Arching. Yeah. Turning. Yeah. Yeah. Feel the breath. Yeah. Deep breaths. Yeah. Traction to the body. Feet, hands. Yeah. Yeah. What's here now, Saj?
I'm here now.
Okay.
Yeah. I feel good here right now, at least.
Okay,
a little
good.
bit good.
I feel like you're all here.
Yeah.
A little bit.
A little bit good. Yeah.
A little bit good. Okay. No matter how tiny you are, I'm going to be right here.
Okay, thank you. It's really nice. It's really nice to
Yeah. Yeah. All infants need attention.
Okay, so just notice how uncertain being here and the world being good is for me here, right? So I'm surprised that it's good because everything in my infant reality used to tell me the opposite. And again, I wouldn't not have been able to articulate that in any kind of conscious way, but at a real foundational, early programming level, that my sense was people are dangerous and the world is dangerous. And the fact that there's room for goodness here is what the processing of trauma looks like. And you can see how open my system is to it, right? This message, this corrective experience, this welcoming that I'm receiving from the therapist, in this case, Robin, my system's really, really sort of grateful for it and taking it in.
Right here. Let's see what left hand's doing. Stretching out. Back of your hand. Right here. Yeah.
Okay, so now you're seeing my entire system organizing towards Robin, right? So I'm sensing her as a relational solution showing up in my infant world. So this opens the door to the first autonomic wave that we have in the session.
Turn. Feel hands. Pushing. Yeah. Yeah. All body. Yeah. Pushing. Holding. Yeah. Right. Chest and belly. Yeah. All body. Good. Yeah. 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 Hand by your mouth and the other hand reaching or pushing. Yeah. What's this like? Want me to move?
It's okay. It's okay. It's not bad.
It's not bad. Oh. Do you want me to move farther back?
No.
No?
Stay right here.
Stay right here. I will. Yeah. Stay right here.
Okay, so I just want to say, for any of you watching this and feeling your own activation, go ahead and take a breath, pause the video, let your system sort of calm down before you begin again, maybe take a quick walk. just know that I'm okay, right? I love this session. I love what happened in it. And even though there's points in it that are really charged and intense, that for me is part of the process. I'm very trusting of that in my system. And it's sort of short-term scariness, short-term intensity, short-term pain for a lot of medium and long-term benefit here. So the other thing to point out here is that, again, just notice my astonishment, notice my surprise that things continue to be good. And I'm asking Robin to, her question to me was, should she back away from me? And no, my response to her is stay right here. So the session is creating what memory reconsolidation theory would call prediction errors, meaning that my internal version of reality, my expectation of relationship and threat is not matching up to what's actually happening in the present moment. So my sense is that psychedelics work this way, right? They're powerful for us because they create prediction errors about the world that we live in. So, if you're walking around and you have a sense that the world is meaningless or empty, uncaring or cold, psychedelics can convey such a warm, loving reality. They tend to provide reconciliation at the existential level. And one of the jobs that the PSIP therapist is doing is that they're playing an interactive role in the psychedelic process, and they're focusing the session so that we have these prediction errors at the human relationship level. So we want to create prediction errors at the level of our human connection. And so, not just at the transpersonal level, not just at the existential level, but at the human family of origin level. And we do this because the vast majority of experiences that cause people to enter into psychotherapy, meaning, the vast majority of our wounding is human relational in nature. It's childhood attachment, it's a person's family of origin. These are the places where most people have experienced most of their wounding.
Yeah. Feel your finger by in your mouth, what that feels like. And feel our contact.
Oh my God.
Feel what that's like. You're an infant, but it's not bad. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Oh, thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah. 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 Feel the tentativeness.
Oh, it's tentative, yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good word.
So tentative.
Yeah, it's uncertain.
Yeah. Just.
It's uncertain, but it's trusting. Yeah, that's what it's doing. It's just trusting.
Barely. Yeah. Trying to find out if there's anyone here for you.